Hey, so gonna try something a little different here. Reviews focused on the audio with basically minimal visuals, with a goal of getting more reviews to you guys in a timely manner and not having to deal with YouTube's unfortunate copyright robots sniping every other fucking video I put up. So, sorry you don't get to look at the trailer footage, which is unfortunate, but you're missing that much less if you're listening to this at the gym or something. So, even trade? Whatever, we're giving it a shot. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is the latest attempt to answer the question of whether or not you can stretch one joke into an entire movie, though this time the joke being adapted is less of the setup, misdirection, punchline, and more of a hey, isn't it funny that this thing exists variety. Yes, you could in fact read the original parody novel and get some laughs from it, but the main joke in play was that someone actually did sit down and rewrite a Jane Austen novel so that the same basic story takes place in an alternate timeline where Regency-era Great Britain went through a zombie apocalypse that necessitated its heroes become martial arts-trained zombie killers in addition to class-conscious countryside aristocrats. Set it on the shelf, let people flip through and discern, oh my, they actually went all the way through with this, how silly, and there you go, the joke has been told. Such as it is with the new movie adaptation, more or less, which has the certain amount of style amid some oddly haphazard direction and salvage job editing to its credit, but mainly seems to exist in service of trailers and YouTube mashups to be compiled later. It's not at all unpleasant to sit through and at time hits some suitable high notes, but there's no joke to be told in the movie proper that's any funnier than the mere fact that it actually is a movie and not a 2.5-minute Lonely Island skit on SNL. Perhaps inevitably, making a movie out of a premise that by all rights ought to be just a comedy sketch means that it only really feels engaged when it arrives at a specifically timed Jane Austen plus zombies and or zombie hunter set piece that plays out like a skit in and of itself. The Bennett sisters rescuing a fancy party from a zombie attack? Funny. Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy's argument over the proposal turning into a full-blown mixed martial arts duel? Inspired. Keeping big chunks of the original dialogue intact even though scenes have been completely recontextualized? Clever. But the connective tissue between segments to get us there? Not so much. To be perfectly honest, while also far from flawless, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was overall probably the superior telling of this joke. A lot of the blame for what doesn't work has to be laid at the feet of director Burr Steers, who doesn't seem to yet quite have a full handle on what to do with a large-budget film that requires such a careful balance of tone and aesthetic to get its central gag across. On the other hand, the film adds a few more conventional zombie horror subplots to the story that actually pulls the narrative even further away from the original, which is a strange decision since it's actively undercutting the premise of its own joke. Then again, they've been working on the screenplay to this thing for a ridiculously long development cycle. Hell, at one point David O. Russell and Natalie Portman were supposed to make this, so by now it's kind of amazing it got to screen at all, I guess. What's genuinely disappointing is that the fairly obvious opportunities for this to actually rise above its one-joke premise and have some real thematic merit are all but completely ignored. Zombies are better than almost any other monster in terms of creating the opportunity for satire since they are literally walking caricatures of humanity, but Pride and Prejudice and Zombies can't seem to find anything to say about such fertile subject matter as the British class system, arbitrary rules of social decorum, or even the broad observational humor at the expense of the landed gentry that was present in Austen's original text, even though the poor zombies keep wandering through the frame practically screaming, "Excuse me, sir, would anyone perchance be having any need of an ideal allegorical shorthand for disruptive inhumanity among humans? You know? Are you sure? Well, alright then, I'll just move on." But instead, the movie is basically content to settle in on stuff that looks like The Walking Dead happening to people who look like Downton Abbey and ride it out to the end. There are some laughs to be had, some inventive action beats, and the cast all seems exceptionally game for keeping straight faces through all of this absurdity, but it just doesn't quite get all the way there. I didn't hate it, I laughed at it. Ironically, the people who enjoy it most will almost certainly be hardcore Jane Austen fans who will get all the references and scene reimaginings, but in terms of all the hype, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies just doesn't fully come to life.